What's up, y'all? We are only a few days away from college football season kicking off. So I'm going to go ahead and throw out my ACC season predictions. Because FSU and Georgia Tech played week 0, I need to get this video out a little bit early. And that's right where we're going to start. We're going to start with that first conference game in Ireland. Not sure how much of a competition it's really going to be. I do think Georgia Tech's going to be all right this year. Probably not great. Their schedule's real tough, but Florida State should have made the playoffs last year. They're still a very solid team. I'm not really as high on them as a lot of people because if I remember correctly, they did lose a lot of players to mostly the draft. A lot of the better players. They bring in DJ Uyunglele at quarterback. DJ Uyunglele. It's one of my favorite names to say, frankly. But he hasn't been all that great. He's been good, but he hasn't been like super special like Clemson or Oregon State. I will still take the Noles to win that one in Ireland. It might be a little bit closer than some think. I think FSU's like a 10, 11 point favorite right now as of recording. But I will take them for the week 0 victory. SMU, now an ACC school. They're also playing week 0. They're like a 30-point favorite over Nevada. Nevada's awful. They could be the worst. They could be the worst. NC State and Wake should both be their FCS opponents in week 1, I think. Then UNC Minnesota. This is that Thursday night game. There are a bunch of Thursday and Friday night games actually next week. UNC and Minnesota. Minnesota's running back's getting a lot of hype. I'm feeling like Minnesota could be a little bit better than they have been recently. They were 5-7 last year. They got into a bowl game off the academics. UNC though, with Max Johnson at QB, I'm an A&M fan, and I'm really rooting for Max Johnson to do well. I loved him when he was here. Got hurt though. Was it 2 seasons in a row he got hurt? Yeah. But man, he doesn't lose. I've only seen him, I think in games he started, he's only lost like 1 or 2 since he's been at A&M, which was 2 years. He didn't start that many games, but when he did, he didn't lose any, or maybe 1. This is kind of a tough one. This early on could sort of decide how these 2 teams are going to play after this. I expect a pretty solid game here. Minnesota has the home field advantage. It's early in the season. It shouldn't be too cold. So I'm thinking about taking North Carolina with a week 1 road victory going up to the Big Ten. Next we have Duke. They should beat Elon. Then we have TCU Stanford. I did do my Big 12 and SEC predictions already. I don't remember all the games I picked. I'm just going off vibes right now. This is completely unscripted. I don't remember if I picked TCU or Stanford. I'm going to go ahead and pick... Let's go with TCU. Stanford's bad. They've been bad. They haven't been good in a long time. Actually, it was Davis Mills. He got a lot of hype out of Stanford. He was there in 2020, which they were like fine, I guess. But they haven't been any good since 2020. Pitt should beat Kent. Then we have Clemson and Georgia. Georgia is my national championship pick for this season. This game is in Atlanta. I was blanking on the city. It's in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz. Practically a home game for the Bulldogs. I really like them. It could be a competitive game. I think Clemson's going to be solid this year. But Georgia should win that one. Maybe not handedly, but they should come out of there with a victory. Louisville should beat Austin Peay. Vautech should beat Vandy. And Syracuse should also beat Ohio. Does Ohio return Curtis Rook? I don't remember. He got a little bit of draft hype. Not that much. I don't remember if he transferred or not. I should check that. Then we have Miami, Florida. This is a tough one. Miami's gonna be solid this year. They really will be. Florida not so much, but that'll mostly be because of their record. They have a good team, but they're not gonna win a whole bunch of games. Although this is one where they could be quite competitive. Big rivalry game. It's in Gainesville. I'm really tempted to pick Florida here, but I'm going to take Miami. For the road win, bit of an upset. Starts Billy Napier's season off poorly. Maybe not a big win, but the Canes should, at least on paper, which is how all of this goes. No real games are played on paper, so none of this really matters too much. But I'm just trying to give you all like a decent idea how teams should do this season. We got Cal, they should beat UC Davis. Virginia should beat Richmond. Then FSU should beat Boston College. Although it was awkwardly close game last season between the two. FSU starts off 2-0 because they played 2 games before week 2, which is weird. Georgia Tech should take down their Atlanta rival. I don't know if they're even rivals. Probably not. In Georgia State, SMU should beat HCU. I'm really tempted to call them Houston Baptist. They changed their name like 2 years ago. Duke plays Northwestern. Northwestern, I don't know. This is a tough one. Elko left Duke. Kind of screwed him up a little bit. Duke brought in the defensive coordinator from Penn State, I think. They got, I think Malik Murphy is going to be their starting quarterback. I'm pretty sure that's his name. He's the one from Texas. But Northwestern, they really surprised last year. They really did. They won like 7 games. They're projected to win like 2, maybe 3. They have that scandal. This is the second game of that home and home series. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Duke to win it. I'm not super confident in that. It's sort of a coin flip game. I don't know how great Duke's going to be. They did lose a lot of their really good players, like Leonard Riley. They lost some guys on their D-line. I think some linebackers too. I'm actually going to flip on this one. I'm going to go with Northwestern. Start their season off well. Cincinnati and Pitt, another probably good out-of-conference game. A lot of these teams play at least one decent out-of-conference game where it should be at least semi-competitive. I'm really tempted to pick Cincinnati here, but they were just not good last season, and frankly, neither was Pitt, but they're at least a little bit respectable. This is a rivalry series. It's also the ACC video, so I'm going to go with Pitt. Auburn and Cal. Auburn all day. Cal, they're just not good. Straight up, Cal's not good. And Auburn is better. BC should beat Duquesne. UNC should beat UNC Charlotte. Louisville should beat Jack State. And then Vautech should beat Marshall. They played last year. I don't remember what the result was, but I do remember it was surprising. Miami will beat Florida A&M. Stanford should beat Cal Poly. Then we have Wake and Virginia. We got Wake, they're just not very good right now. They lost what's his name to Notre Dame, their QB last season. They lost the ACC title in 2021. But they're playing Virginia. Virginia's the worst. So give me Wake. Virginia's probably going to be a bottom 2 team in this conference. Tennessee and NC State. Wolfpack could be really good. They're set to have a great season. Frankly, so is Tennessee. Although they do start true sophomore. He might be a redshirt freshman actually. Nico Amaliava. Hope I'm saying that right. They're very confident in him. He was a 5-star, like third, maybe second player in the country in his class. It's at a neutral site, I believe, in Charlotte. Is that where it is? I don't know. I kind of want to take NC State here. But in my SEC video, I did predict Tennessee. I'll hold strong with that. A Falls win over Wolfpack in week 2. I glanced over here to the conference standings and I saw Wake on top, and I a little bit confused for a second, because they've only played 2 games. SMU and Brigham Young. Give me SMU. I don't think SMU is going to be as great as everyone really thinks they are. They're going to be fine, but they're not even in the conference title race. They are coming off a American Conference title, which was like their first ever, and they've just been so bad historically. That's been one of their better seasons ever last year. What's his name? Their quarterback. I keep forgetting it. I think he's back though. I talk a lot about quarterbacks just because they're the most like memorable players for the most part. I don't like that they're the most important. I mean, in reality they are, but I mentioned quarterbacks, and there are other parts to the game, and I don't know. QBs are just the easiest ones to base a whole team off of, when really they shouldn't be. Georgia Tech and Syracuse. We got Haynes King at Georgia Tech and former Aggie. And then we have what's his name from Ohio State at Syracuse, and Fran Brown, and they play in the Carrier Dome, which isn't called the Carrier Dome anymore. It makes me mad. I'm gonna keep calling it the Carrier Dome because I don't care. Syracuse and Georgia Tech. Give me Syracuse for an early season victory. That would be a good win for them. Georgia Tech starting off rough, 1-2. They play a tough schedule. They really do. Let's take a look at this. FSU, Syracuse, Louisville, UNC, Notre Dame, Vatech, Miami, NC State, Georgia. This is one of the tougher schedules in the country. It really is, and I kind of feel bad for them. Clemson should beat App. FSU should beat Memphis. Although I've heard like rumblings of this being a close game. There's just no way. NC State over La Tech, Mizzou over BC. Then give me West Virginia over Pitt in the backyard brawl. Miami over Ball State, Duke over UConn, Vatech over Old Dominion, at Old Dominion. This is an upset. Like, was it last year? No, it was in 22. They played at Old Dominion, and the Monarchs won. Super weird. UNC should beat NC Central, and then Ole Miss probably. No, I'm fairly confident Ole Miss is gonna destroy Wake Forest. Maryland, they play Big Ten football. It's a different breed, although not like the SEC. And Virginia's the worst team I've ever seen. Joking. Kind of, but mostly. Cal, I don't know that much about SDSU, so I'll take Cal in this one. Benefit of the doubt. 3 weeks in, and we got some funky standings. Stanford and Syracuse. Palo Alto, all the way to upstate New York. For a conference game. Absolutely ridiculous. Stanford and Cal are going to have to leave this conference soon. They've got so much money but it doesn't make any sense for any other sports except for football. If they can go back to the Pac-2, just join the Pac-2 and then add like Boise, maybe the Montana schools, although I don't think they would do it. Make that leap from FCS. Maybe add like another Mountain West school. I don't know, do something. Get Stanford and Cal out of this conference. SMU, I'm not like too upset about. It still feels wrong, but it at least makes some sense. I know the ACC didn't want them and they just bought their way in, but it makes just a little bit of sense to get in that Texas market. Anyway, I gotta pick the games. Can't just ramble on. Stanford and Syracuse, the two teams in the S logo. Give me Syracuse. Nice home victory to start off Fran's era with the Cuse. Where are they? Oh, they're on top. They're 3-0. Interesting. Boston College and Michigan State. Michigan State's going to turn around a little bit. And frankly, I don't know too much about Boston College this season when I really should be if I'm doing a video about the ACC. Michigan State was awful last season, but as I said, they should turn around a little bit. Let me go. I'll go with Michigan State. Just for now, it could be an interesting game to keep an eye on. Definitely will. Definitely will. UVA, I'm gonna say beats Coastal. Coastal lost Grayson McCall to NC State, actually, which is partially why they're gonna be real good this season. And speaking of NC State, they're next. Although I could see Coastal beating Virginia here. I really could. Totally a coin flip. And it's in Myrtle Beach. I think that's where Coastal is. Myrtle Beach. NC State and Clemson, definitely a defining game for this conference this year. I kind of want to take the Wolfpack, but it's in Death Valley, and nobody wins in Death Valley. Clemson's got Cade Klubnik. He's not like a superstar, but I'm still a believer in him. NC State's got Grayson McCall, though. Give me Clemson. Give me Clemson for the home victory to get them up to 2-1. Oh, yeah, it's because they play Georgia. FSU over Cal, Duke over MTSU. Why is it in Murfreesboro? That's weird. I'll take SMU over TCU, although sort of a coin flip game. Give me TCU, actually. UNC over James Madison, because JMU did get stripped of their coaching staff and a bunch of the players at the portal. Miami over USF. Why is it in Tampa Bay? Georgia Tech and Louisville. I really like what I saw from Louisville last year. Really good season from them. Played in the title game. They do have that home field advantage. Georgia Tech, I want them to be good so bad. But this is just not the year for them. Their schedule is so tough. It's not like an SEC tough schedule, but their schedule's tough. And then give me Virginia Tech over Rutgers. Rutgers, don't get me wrong, very promising season for them. They've got an extremely favorable schedule, but I like the Hokies in this one. And then Pitt over Youngstown State. Georgia Tech finally gets their second win of the season, and it'll be over VMI. Then we have Vatech and Miami, another game that could be pretty defining for this conference. You'll notice it in a minute. I've done this once before for the ACC. But we'll have a couple teams start to sort of separate towards the top of the conference, and I'll sort of get into them in a minute or two. Those are your real conference contenders. Vatech and Miami. I don't know. This is a tough one. I I don't like that Miami's gonna be good this year. I don't have any like personal beef with them, but they've got Cam Ward, preseason first team all conference. They've got Damian Martinez, preseason first team all conference. They got Xavier Restrepo, receiver, first team all conference, preseason. Their D line's good. They've got two first team all conference guys. Their linebackers are solid. Their DBs, I think they lost both their safeties, maybe not both of them. Lost one safety to the draft. Then they had their one defensive tackle who's projected like first, second round, completely went undrafted. Totally weird. Besides the point though, I'm taking Miami. I don't love it, but probably the better team, honestly. I think it'd be BC over Western Kentucky to get them up to 2 wins. Then Clemson over Stanford. Um, North Carolina or Duke. Definitely give me North Carolina, even though it's on the road. NC State over NIU. FSU over SMU. Although this could be an interesting game at least. I don't know how tough it'll be for Florida State, but it'll be interesting. Then we'll see Wake over Ooh Syracuse over Holy Cross, and then Louisville and Notre Dame. Notre Dame plays, is it six or seven ACC games? So we'll see them a lot here. They're gonna be solid. They got a really good defense. They do. Let me open up. I'm gonna say this, and y'all are gonna get mad at me or something. Say these aren't like all completely my predictions. They are, but I've got Phil Steele's 2024 edition. Shout out Phil Steele. I've had it for the past 2 years. It's such a good preseason book. Gives me like all the details I need. I'm not going off any of his projections. I mostly use it for like who's on the roster, projected starters, like brief overviews of position groups and stuff. Um, oh, Tyler Shuck's at Louisville. That's interesting. But they also have Colin Lacey. I love Colin Lacey. I really wanted him to come to A&M, but it just didn't end up happening. We were in his final two, and he chose Louisville. It's all right though. We got Jabbar Barber and we got Cyrus Allen out of the portal. Any other interesting names on here? Aston Gillette. I remember that. I don't know why. Um, I don't know. Louisville, they're gonna be solid. Probably eight, maybe 9 win team. But Notre Dame's defense is so good. It's so good. It's gonna be tough for them when they come to, tough for us when they come to Kyle Field week one. Then why is Syracuse playing at UNLV? Gee, someone help out their athletic department. Get them someone who can schedule some home games. I'll still take Syracuse over UNLV though. 5-0 start. Wait, really? Wow, this is a super reasonable start. They could actually be good. Maybe not good. They could actually win a lot of games. Then we have probably the defining game in conference this season, Clemson and FSU. As I said earlier, I'm not as high on FSU as I should be. Or as not as I should be. I can be however high on SMU as I want. But I do kind of like the way Clemson's been doing things. They haven't dug into the portal a lot. Dabo gets a ton of hate for that. But if he can put together solid teams, not having to do that, I kind of respect it, honestly. Because FSU lost a lot of guys, I'll take Clemson. Puts Clemson at 4-1, FSU at 5-1. Still conference title contenders. UNC at 5-0 is interesting. That's very doable. That's really doable, actually. Okay. Georgia Tech and Duke. Give me Georgia Tech. Then NC State over Wake. Vatech over Stanford. Miami over Cal. UNC over Pitt. BC over UVA, and then I'll go with SMU over Louisville. Finish out week 6. One more week here, and then I'll like talk about the standings some more. NC State over Syracuse could be a bit of a trap game for NC State, honestly. Syracuse goes into that 5-0. I think they've started 5-0 the last couple seasons. I might be wrong, but I feel like 5-0 has been Syracuse's kryptonite. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? They started 6-0 in 22. They started 4-0 last year. So 5-0 is actually not it. They've just not been lucky in the last half of their seasons. Give me NC State, I guess, in week 7 over Syracuse. Then Cal over Pitt. Cal's got Jalen Ott. Ott's good. He's solid. He'll go relatively high in the draft. Maybe not. Maybe like 3rd, 4th round. As high as probably 2nd round. Then, let's see. Georgia Tech and UNC. This is a tough one. This is a really tricky one for me. Georgia Tech pulled off the win last year when they had Drake May. Georgia Tech, what's the record right now? 3-3. UNC 6-0. I'm really tempted to take Georgia Tech right here. I really am. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Georgia Tech to upset UNC and give them the first loss of the year in week 7. Then move to Louisville and UVA. Give me Louisville, and then Clemson over Wake, and Notre Dame over Stanford. Okay, so we got Miami on top of the conference at 6-0. Then Clemson, FSU, UNC, which I didn't really expect to be up here. Then we have Syracuse. Also didn't really expect them up there. NC State and Vatech and Louisville. Bottom of the conference, Stanford, UVA, Pitt, Duke. Miami wins over Florida, FAMU, Ball State. Through the first half of the season, at worst, really, Miami goes 4-2, which is not bad at all. Clemson at 5-1. At worst, they could be 3-3. They really could. Lost to Georgia, NC State, FSU. UNC at 6-1. This kind of throws me off a little bit. That Minnesota game is going to be really important for them. Then they play 3 bad teams. Duke also not a great team. Pitt not a great team. Interesting. Week 8 of ACC play. I'll take Vatech over BC, FSU over Duke, Clemson over UVA. Notre Dame's got a ball hawk at DB, and Haynes King cannot keep the ball away from the defense, so give me Notre Dame. Then SMU over Stanford, NC State over Cal. Gosh, they're going to Cal to play that game. That's awful. Miami or Louisville could be a bit of a tricky game for Miami, honestly. Louisville, at this point, they started off really good. They've had some rough games. Beat UVA. I'm going to take Miami, though. Tough game. Maybe a close game. Could be an upset night game, maybe, in Louisville. And then give me Wake over UConn. Syracuse over Pitt, which gets them to bowl eligibility. That's pretty good. Pitt hanging out at 3-4, not awful. Then Louisville over BC. Although I kind of feel like I should take BC right here. They just hired that guy that I hate the most. What's his name? I keep forgetting. Bill O'Brien. They hired Bill O'Brien as their head coach. And I hate Bill O'Brien, personally, as a Texans fan. Bill O'Brien screwed our entire franchise, and I really don't appreciate it. So I've got some beef with him. I had to suffer through the Davis Mills years. No disrespect to Davis Mills. Um, yeah. Anyway, end of the, I'm not talking about pros right now. Give me Louisville over BC because I hate Bill O'Brien. That could be a bit of a tricky game though for the Cards on the road. Then I'll take SMU over Duke, Stanford or Wake. I'll give Stanford a conference win. Then Oregon State over Cal. Although I say although a lot. I'm trying to cut back on that. It'll be an interesting game. Give me Cal. I'll take Cal. It's the ACC video. Whatever. Then we got FSU Miami. I don't know why this isn't a rivalry week. Oh, yeah. It's because Florida plays FSU that week. Never mind. Miami or FSU. Gosh, how are the teams looking? Miami at 7-0, FSU at 6-1. Really a toss-up game. I don't want to pick a team. I mean, Miami's got probably the better players, but they've had so much hype, so much preseason hype over the last several years, and they just haven't done squat. Except lose to MTSU by like 35 points. Kind of tempted to pick Miami, though. Yeah, I'll go with the Canes here. I'll go with the Canes. To put FSU at 6-2. Not a bad start. UNC over Virginia. Vatek over Georgia Tech. At this point, got a bunch of teams going bowling. Louisville's almost there. Georgia Tech's trying to be there. Same for Cal and Wake. Not looking good for these teams down here. I'll take Clemson over Louisville. And then FSU over UNC to bounce back. There's this thing in college football. You play a tough road game, you lose or get blown out maybe. You come back home, you've got a real good shot against anybody you play. So, for that reason, I'll give it to FSU. Not a lot of questions asked there. Then NC State over Stanford. Southern Methodist over Pitt. Vatek and Syracuse. Both teams combined 2 losses so far, as I have predicted. Honestly, could be a real important game. I like Keyron Drones. Keyron Drones. Give me the Hokies. Fran Brown. That's his name, right? Fran Brown. I keep forgetting. Pretty good run so far at Syracuse, though. Pretty good run. Vatek sort of building up. They've had some rough years. They played Tulane in the bowl game last year. I think they won that, right? I don't totally remember. Did they win that? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they dominated Tulane. Anyway, and then I'll take Miami over Duke. Cal and Wake. These teams are just not fun. They're just not fun. Give me Cal and Jaden Ott. Then give me Syracuse and Fran Brown. 7 wins, not bad. Then Miami over Georgia Tech. They're not letting Georgia Tech win that game. Not this year. Not this year, at least. It's just not going to happen for them. Then we got NC State over Duke. Pitt over Virginia. Clemson and Virginia Tech. Definitely an interesting one. Both these teams kind of fighting for a spot in that ACC title game. Clemson and Vatek. Combined 2 losses. Tech's only losses to Miami. Clemson's only losses to Georgia. They've played kind of an easy schedule. No, they haven't. Played NC State and FSU. Clemson could be a lot worse coming into this game. Virginia Tech has a very favorable schedule. They really do so far. So we go with the Hokies for the upset. Of course, a game to keep an eye on. I'm going to go with Vatech with an upset over Clemson in Week 11. Then I'll take Notre Dame. I kind of want to. I kind of want to take Notre Dame here. I'll do it. Notre Dame over FSU. I don't know if this will be an upset, but two probably upsets here in Week 11. Kind of throws a wrench into things. Not really that much for FSU. It hurts them a bit because it's a loss, but it's not a conference game. Clemson over Pitt. SMU over BC. Louisville over Stanford. Syracuse all the way out to California. I'm going to give Cal the win here. Upset, yeah. But I'll give Cal the win to get them to bowl eligibility. Ott's going to be good. I kind of forget about him because he's on just a terrible, terrible team. But he could probably carry them to a victory over Syracuse. UNC over Wake and then Notre Dame over Virginia. 2 more weeks. We start off with NC State and Georgia Tech in Week 13. Georgia Tech really needs the win, but so does NC State. I gotta take NC State, don't I? Georgia Tech feels like a team who could pull off a bunch of upsets, but it's mostly because the only way they're gonna win games in this schedule is with upsets. Probably keep an eye on this one too. Then I'll take UNC over BC, and then Clemson over Citadel, Vatech over Duke, FSU over Charleston Southern, Syracuse over UConn. 8 wins, pretty nice. Stanford and Cal, I'll take Cal, I guess. And Miami over Wake, SMU over UVA, and Louisville over Pitt. Sort of just a jumble from like 6 to, I guess not, 6 to 10. Bunch of teams. One game could really change their season, especially in Week 14. Georgia Tech 4-8 season is kind of what I'm projecting for them, just because their schedule's so tough. BC over Pitt. Pitt might win this one, but I'll take Boston College. Clemson over South Carolina. FSU over Florida. FSU over Florida. SMU over Cal. Miami over Syracuse. I really don't want to do it. 12-0 season. I'll talk about that in a minute. Kentucky over Louisville is my pick because Kentucky is an SEC school. Gotta have that SEC bias in here somewhere. UNC or NC State, I'll give the Wolfpack victory. Vatech over UVA. Wake over Duke. And then Stanford over... Why in the world is Stanford playing San Jose State in rivalry week? That is awful. Oh boy. Alright, so here's my full ACC season prediction. Miami at 12-0. Virginia Tech at 11-1. Kind of surprises me. Clemson, NC State, and SMU at 10-2. FSU and UNC at 9-3. Louisville and Cal at 7-5. Syracuse to 8-4. And then Wake at 5-7. BC, Georgia Tech, Pitt at 4-8. 3-9 for Stanford and Duke, and UVA at 2-10. I'll go over some of these teams at the top. Kind of throwing me off a little bit. Miami, this is best case scenario, obviously. They don't play a very tough schedule. This Virginia Tech game, this FSU game, those are going to be definitely season changers. If I flip even one of those, I guess not. If I flip either of them, if they lose one of them and they win all their other games, they're in the conference title game. Those are the tough ones. They got both of them at home. They got a super favorable schedule. Everywhere else, except Florida, could be a little tough going to Gainesville. Virginia Tech at 11-1 is really weird. They do play a super easy schedule. Rutgers might be one to watch out for, I guess. Definitely Miami. I did pick them to upset Clemson. Maybe not. Maybe they do. If Clemson wins, obviously they're in the conference title game. If Tech wins, they're in the conference title game. This would be probably a historic season for Virginia Tech at 11-1. They've returned... Oh, I'm just seeing this for the first time. They returned 21 players. 21 starters. Oh, that's ridiculous. They returned 21 starters and Kyron Jones. You know what? This feels reasonable. They returned all but one of their starters. Wow, I didn't realize that. They could be Clemson. They could be Miami. At worst, they're probably like 8-4. At best, they could be undefeated. But 11-1 somehow is where I have them. Clemson at 10-2 losses to Georgia and Tech. This could be like a real make or break season for Dabo. This could be a season where if he really underperforms, say he loses to NC State and FSU and Tech and say South Carolina and they're 7-5, I don't want to say it, but he's in the hot seat. How do I fix this? What happened? There we go. That's not how it was. Kind of messed this one up a little bit. What happened? They're 10-2, right? I'm pretty sure they were 10-2. Yeah, okay. Right now I've got them losing to Georgia and Virginia Tech. Could be a lot worse. Really could be. SMU, I did not really expect to see them up here, but they play a lot of really bad ACC teams. They might lose to BYU. They might lose to Louisville. This is their toughest stretch, and it's real early on in the season. This 4-game stretch is kind of make or break for them. They play an awful conference schedule. It's really bad. Except for FSU and Louisville, I guess. It's really manageable. If they play their cards right, they're looking super good in year one in their new conference. FSU 9-3, a little bit lower than I expected to put them. Losses to Clemson, Miami, and Notre Dame might be worst case scenario. Nah, worst case scenario, they lose a couple more. Probably to UNC, maybe Florida. But a little bit, I don't want to say down year. It's not a down year. 9-3 is really good. But a step back from undefeated. UNC 9-3, a little bit of a surprise for me. Lost to Georgia Tech, FSU, NC State. Not bad. As I said, this Minnesota game is going to be important. If they lose that one, they're 8-4. It's like, meh. 9-3 looks so much better than 8-4. Best case scenario, maybe 11-1 somehow. Worst case scenario, maybe 6-6. So real wide range here. They'll go to a bowl game, but real wide range. Then we got Louisville at 7-5. Kind of rough for them. Lost to Notre Dame, SMU, Miami, Clemson, Kentucky. They could be a lot better than that. I don't know. Cal at 7-5, Syracuse 8-4. Here are their schedules. I won't get into those. I don't want to bore you. Getting pretty down far on the conference list. It surprised me. Maybe it surprised you. We'll see. I feel like these are pretty reasonable. I'm not sure they're expectations, but predictions. It's hard to predict seasons. It's impossible to get them all right. But if you enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. I read all the comments. I'll try to get back to you if you say something. But until the next one, thank you so much for watching. Peace.